We are live.
Idiot hid this candy in the room.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. For those of you who are watching this later, sorry about the landscape. See, will it change? That doesn't look like it. Oh, wait. Yeah, no. Okay, we got landscape. So those of you watching this later, this is another one of the semi-unscheduled live streams, and this one is a little bit later than usual, and I was completely unprepared to get started. So I kind of used this time while we wait for people to join to get set up. So bear with us for just a minute while we figure out what we're doing. Our topic of conversation this night is solar flare, Schmolar flare. I am really disappointed. I've been waiting for years for a solar flare to knock out. Let me get the chat up. To knock out the power grid. And we finally get a powerful solar flare, powerful enough to be seen in Georgia, of all things. The northern lights are seen all the way down in Georgia, and the grid doesn't even flicker. I'm so mad. This is like almost as disappointing as Y2K. I mean, how powerful of a solar flare do you need?
No, you don't. You don't need to sleep with a shirt on. Hold it.
Okay. Just change the title. Isaac's here. Okay, Isaac, I know this was completely unprepared, brother. Thank you for sticking around at all. Yes, the lights did go out in Georgia. Well done, sir. Yeah, we're not going to have a real long live stream tonight. I didn't even have to plug in the phone, to be honest with you. So I'm only planning to go about an hour this evening. Isaac going to do this for about 30 minutes. So, but I have had a pretty good streak going, and I didn't want to end it. But I was playing Minecraft, and I'm on a little bit of a Minecraft kick right now, which is silly of me, but there we are. Les is in the house. Can someone let me know how the audio is doing? Is it still fine, or do we have the crackling Rosie in the back? We lost a viewer already. Or is crackling Rosie in the house? Okay, I am really disappointed. I mean, I am disappointed. It has been years that the solar flare was what I was waiting for to knock out the solar grid, to set me on my track to founding a new nation from the strength of my seed and the multitude of my sons. I was going to be a king, and I was just waiting for a solar flare. Of course, you all know that solar flares are what causes the northern lights, the aurora borealis. No chat. Wes, there is a chat. I only see you and Isaac in it. Okay, there's Rusty. So Rusty's in the chat too. Les, let me know if you see it. Okay, there you go. So, you know, the northern lights normally don't get seen south of Alaska. You know, I mean, like every once in a while they'll work their way down to Montana, and it's a big deal. They got all the way down to Georgia. There's people in Georgia seeing the northern lights, and the grid didn't even flicker. The cell phones didn't go off. The traffic lights didn't stop working. I haven't even heard about the traffic cameras not working. Isaac watched the Mad Max 2 the other day, and he's ready for the apocalypse now. You got your gas tank wired up to explode. So I'm pissed. And what's it going to take? What's it going to take? When do I get to get get my Mad Max on. I don't know. It's disappointing. It is disappointing. So that's kind of what we're talking about this evening. Just our frustration with the resilience of this modern hellhole we live in. This hellscape that has been wrought upon us continues to persist despite all signs to the contrary. I mean, we are indebted, we are sick, we are fat, we poison our bodies all the time. We are led by idiots and morons and incompetents. And yet somehow this thing just keeps not collapsing. How does it not collapse? What is propping it up? I'm serious. Let's figure out what's the tent pole that's propping this thing up, and let's go kick it out and start over. This is getting ridiculous. Boo's here. Boo's mad too. Isaac, when you say you watched Mad Max 2, what does that mean? Did you watch the second Mad Max with Mel Gibson, or did you watch one of these new remakes, which I have not seen any of the remakes yet, although I am open to them. Just wait till the Chi Comps put some M855 through the electric transformers. Actually, I used to build electric transformers. I used to work at a factory that made the high voltage. I was the one who made the high voltage. I made the high voltage transformers. And of course, we assembled them here. So they were technically made in America, but almost all the parts came straight from China. And at one point, the Chinese were caught putting cutoff switches in our components that we were buying from. It wasn't at my factory; it was a different factory. But they were sneaking cutoff switches into the electrical grid transformers. Anywho, so okay, the second Mad Max with Mel. I haven't seen any of the remakes. I'm open to them, but I just haven't got around to watching any of them yet. So yeah, the Chi-Coms were trying to get a damn a backdoor switch in our electrical grid. But we caught them, and I didn't catch them, but they were caught, and they got it all out of there. Miss Sharon is with us, and she has an excellent point. If you would please smash the thumbs up button if you're watching, we'd appreciate that. It does help the stream. Everyone says that YouTube's suppressing them, and I hate. I don't. It seems. It seems kind of sour grapesy. There are successful conservative channels on YouTube, so why would they be suppressing you when they're not suppressing these big guys? Okay. That being said, I know how this sounds. It sounds conspiratorial. It sounds silly. Why would they be suppressing my tiny little channel when they let Louder with Crowder, and Joe Rogan and all these guys, and Jordan Peterson and all these guys, get millions of views, tens of millions of views. But it feels like, sorry, I'm sleepy. It feels like the screws have been tightened on me a little bit here lately. Things I used to do, I love. Hey, good evening, Mike Farmer. I love the Patriot. That's great. Shalom, tradesman. Things I used to do that would get 1,500, 1,600, couple thousand views. Now, if I get 500 views, 600 views on a video, it's I'm excited. Part of that is me. I haven't been. A lot of it is it's the content. Part of me knows it's the content. I have not been putting out the enjoyable content I used to, where I was having fun, and so everyone else was kind of enjoying it too. So we're going to try to get back to that little bit of fun. But it feels like YouTube's tightening the screws on me just a little. So if you could hit the thumbs up and share, that would be appreciated. Especially now that we have the sound fixed on this thing. So of course I've already exhausted my topic for the evening. You got to promote your channel more. YouTube values consistency in the algorithm. They don't like a variety of content on one channel. They prefer multiple channels for each subject per person. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Because that's one of the things I kind of like. If I get bored, I'm not going to do it. You know. So I'm always jumping around, just whatever interests me in the moment. Yeah, Sharon says, I haven't received a notification in many months that I even have a video to watch. And I've been putting out a video a week now for probably 2 months. At least I've been back in the saddle. I know I took a pretty long break there for a while. I needed a little bit of a recharge. But I've been really consistent for several months. And, you know, it's not getting out there. But you know what? It's not their job to promote me. It's my job to promote me. I have views they disagree with. I have viewpoints that I want to promote that they think are anathema to them. So, you know, like if I'm sitting here whining because someone else won't promote me, do I really care about my views then? You know, it's not worth it. If I have to do the work, so I need to stop whining and I need to stop working. Rob Painless is in the house. Rob, I guess one of the advantages of doing a later stream is that Wes S is done and we can have Rob pop in. You know what, Rob? Do you use Brave at all? If you use Brave, we could actually get you in here because I'm streaming through Brave right now. And you could join the Brave call and it would stream it would, yeah, we would be streaming the call. So waiting for the knock on my door from FBI for memes against Sloppy Joe. Yeah, we're definitely winning the meme game. They can't meme. Good old Isaac's got some pretty good memes too. A lot of the times, Mike. Y'all should. I think he shares his on X. Y'all should. Swap your best and see what you can come up. Oh, Rob. Anyway, this is everybody. So there is this web browser called Brave, Brave, and it is very, 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 very good. I've been using it for about a year now. I installed it on my iPhone. I think you can put it on just about anything. I don't have it on my laptop. I don't know why. I should. But it obviously it gets you out of, you know, Safari, Android universe, and it has a lot more. Nothing's perfect, obviously, but it has a lot more security features and gives you a lot more control. Yay, Rob! I am on X as the Revolting Man. I don't check it much. I need to do more with it. Just because I do need to be promoting the channel a little bit, and X would be a way to do that. But I am on X as the Revolting Man, and I would love to follow you. I think it's the Revolting Man. Isaac, I think you, Isaac, we follow each other on X, right? Is it the Revolting? It is not important. My thing is, I just can't. I don't want to add any more social media. You know, I've got Facebook I don't do anything with. I've got an X I don't do anything with. Believe it or not, I hate to admit this. I signed up for Instagram, have never once used it. Not used it ever once. I never even like logged into it the first time. But I've got an Instagram I never... anyone here? Trump speak in New Jersey tonight, 2 hours versus 2 minute Joe. Les has been kicked off X 33 times since 09. That is awesome. The Elon reinstated Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos. That's cool. I don't know Nick that well. I mean, I kind of know who he is on the Zeitgeist, but I've never followed him. Milo's a bit of a crazy man. Last time but you know, kind of like crazy like a fox, crazy, but smart crazy. Last I heard him, but it's a free speech issue. It doesn't matter if what he's saying is okay. Here we go. Let's do this. We've got our topic. Thank you, Isaac. I can usually count on you to give us the topic. I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of the press as much as I do the right to bear arms. But I do not believe they are what everyone else believes they are. Yeah, I heard that Milo had sort of forsworn homosexuality. He had been abused as a child, is what it sounded like. Rob, that's me. That's me. Give me a follow, and then I'll follow you back. So we've turned freedom of speech into this freedom of expression thing, and so everything is speech. Dance is speech. Statues are speech. Art is speech. Photography is speech. Everything is speech. Anything that you're expressing, any idea, it is speech. Okay, so that's a bullshit lie. If you're an originalist or a textualist and you believe that freedom of speech is freedom of expression, then you're not an originalist. Okay, art existed when the Constitution was written, and the founding fathers did not say they were, the freedom of expression. Oh, Isaac just followed. Isaac hadn't followed me yet. Oh my gosh, Isaac. The founding fathers didn't say freedom of expression shall not be infringed or whatever. Oh, not Rob is following me too. Thank you, Rob. I'll make sure I followed you guys both back when I'm not. They said freedom of speech, so they meant freedom of speech, talking, me, not pictures, not art, not expression. Freedom of speech. I believe that I should be able to verbally say anything I want. We're going to get to. Hold on, we're not done yet because we've still got to do freedom of the press. All right, so don't start yelling at me yet. Oh, thank you, Isaac. You're a really good moderator. It doesn't include pornography. We shouldn't have to have the debate of what is pornography so we can regulate it, because we don't. Of course, we can regulate pornography because we can regulate anything that's not speech. We can regulate expression. Okay, you can't think about this now. If someone murdered someone in the street and said it was an art institute, an art installation, it was performance art, and I'm expressing my hatred for, this person represents an idea to me, and this is the idea they represent, and I hate that idea, and I'm killing that. Okay, it's a ridiculous argument. I mean, and you're all rolling your eyes at me. No one would make that argument, but that's the argument people make. Well, of course I can publish pornography. It's a freedom of expression issue for me. And that's a bullshit lie. And the founding fathers would have freaked out if they saw what we've done to speech and turned it into expression. Freedom of speech does not protect images. It does not protect performance art or dance or any of that stuff. It protects the spoken word. You can say what you want to say. Now, the other side of that is we've perverted freedom of the press. We've perverted freedom of the press worse than we did freedom of speech, because we've turned freedom of the press into, journalists are free to do their job because they're the press, and they are free to hold to speak truth to power, to hold the government accountable. And that is a raging bullshit lie. When our founding fathers said the press, they meant publishing. You are free to publish whatever words you want to publish. Again, what's protected here is ideas, being able to communicate ideas and dissent. All right? And that is words. Spoken word, freedom of speech. Written word, freedom of the press. Our Constitution does not protect journalism. our Constitution didn't really believe journalism existed. Our Constitution protected the right of the individual, your right, to speak and write your ideas and your dissent and your complaints. Okay? And that's it. They can't put up naked statues. They can if we allow them, but we're able to regulate that. All right? Pornography can be regulated. All right? We don't have to allow the worst people amongst us to publish the most noxious things. And by the way, I'm not an anti-pornography crusader. You know, the naked female body doesn't insult me. Quite the opposite. But I still believe that, like anything, you can always have too much of a good thing. And we should be able to regulate it at every level. You know, the little town you live in should be able to regulate the artistic and visual imagery through all the different mediums, all of it. Performance, you know, pictures, movies, video, all of it. They should be able to regulate it within inside their jurisdiction. You know, county, state, and federal, we should be able to pass laws that regulate imagery. Movies, like I said, plays, dance, pictures, photography, all of it. This stuff is not protected in the Constitution. It is written in spoken word that is protected in our Constitution with the freedom of the press and the freedom of speech. And then this is one of the big places where we got off track. When we started letting people say, no, freedom of expression. I have something to express. And the fact that I have to express it with a naked lady makes it even all the more powerful. Well, look, I like a naked lady as much as the next man. Maybe a little more than some men. It can't be unregulated. Dear God, we regulate cigarettes because they're addictive. Cigarettes are not 1/1,000,000th as addictive as a naked woman. A naked woman is the most addictive thing in the world. And there's not a heterosexual man in the chat right now who wouldn't attest to that. So anywho. So this idea that, oh no, we must define pornography so that we can regulate pornography because it's pornography that we should regulate. That's bullshit lie. We by the Constitution, we should be able to. Isaac is a theocratic libertarian, ultimate freedom within our Creator's guidelines. I like that. We should be able to regulate it. And it would blow our founding fathers' minds, blow their minds that anyone has twisted their words to mean that images and performances. If we told James Madison that we cannot stop women from being paid to have sex on camera, he would instantly flip over the table, go outside and cut a switch and come back in and beat us to death with it. It would blow his mind. He would just be so angry. He would like, oh, you know, he'd come back in screaming. This is what the tyrants told us would happen. You know, you've done exactly what you said you would. He probably would just turn us back over to the King of England. He'd probably just throw his hands up and say, oh my God, they were right. Everyone else was right. Look at these idiots. Look at what they've done. Everyone was right. Hey, is Lance Corporal Veteran in the house? Well, Rob's seen him, but I didn't see his. Oh, there he is. Lance Corporal Veteran made it. It's good to see you, brother. Okay. So I missed a bunch of good comments. Does the 2A only apply to the arms that existed when it was written? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying that the First Amendment and the was it the third? Freedom of the press. Oh, I don't know. I shouldn't even try to remember this right now. I'm not saying they only apply to the methods that existed when they were written, but they do only apply to the concepts. And the concepts they apply to are the written and spoken word. So, yes, you should be allowed to say whatever you want on X. So there is a gray area. This medium right here is video, right? It's imagery. So the images should be able to be regulated, but my word speaking should not be able to be regulated. Now here's the question. Suppose I had a banner behind me that just said something horrific, and it's an image of a written word. Now, actually, that's a sophomoric example. It's a sophomoric objection because the written word, however it's conveyed, would not be able to be regulated. So a video of just the written word, I don't. Well, that's a good question. I still think it's sophomoric. If it's just if it's a video of a sentence, it probably shouldn't be able to be regulated. But who knows? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I could come down on the other side of that. Okay, I missed a bunch of stuff. Anarchy Television is thinking over it. My gosh, I had it. Okay, Rob, I'm sorry. I got to check and see if some setting got changed somewhere with these midstream ads. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't do it. As far as I know, I don't get any money out of these live streams. But I'll look and see. I've meant to do this for a couple weeks now, and I keep forgetting to do it. And I will look and see what is going on with that. So Anarchy Television is thinking on it. Let us know what you come up with, Anarchy Television. Isaac says our text technically images. Technically, yes. First Amendment. Okay, Rob says First Amendment is freedom of the press, assembly, religion, and two others that I can't think of at the moment. They must not be important. Anywho. Okay, so maybe the First Amendment is speech and press and religion. So I feel very strongly like that. Freedom of the press does not apply to journalists, whatever those are. It applies to you and me. We can publish whatever ideas and dissents and encouragements we want to publish. And I'm actually okay with some pretty vile stuff getting written down. I don't know that we should worry too much about some of the most horrific stuff. I mean, obviously you don't want it to be commercially viable, but the written word, sans images, without images, it's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as mindlessly compelling as imagery can be. So, anywho, there we go. All right. What else is going on in the world? Of course, our vegetable in chief continues to ferment. That guy is he's already aged like a cheap wine, and he's moving into spoiled vinegar territory, or actually has moved through spoiled vinegar territory, and is now moving into sour syrup. I don't even know what he is anymore. All right, what's Anarchy Television say? Government is a religion. Interesting idea. I have a mouse in my ceiling. I can hear him scratching. So atheism is a religion. Environmentalism is a religion. scientism is a religion. So I think it's possible that we could argue that there is something that could be described as maybe governmentism. That could be a religion. If you give all of your obedience and you're willing to give up all of your assets to government, and you trust government to always take care of you, there is a, and if you always trust, and if you always have complete faith and trust in what the government does, there is an argument to be made that for some people government is a religion. I wouldn't disagree with that. Now Rob's responding from a different angle. A atheist. That's pretty good. Tobacco Rose says that golf is a religion. I've never played. Actually, I played golf once when I was a kid. I was still in high school and I played golf one time. But we weren't really playing golf. We were just rattling around down a big open field and breaking rules. The golf pro had to come out and tell us to shape up or ship out. He was cool about it. He kind of knew that we were just out there having fun. And we weren't hurting anybody or anything. And it was like there wasn't people on the course that we were, interfering with. I think it was just us, and there might have been someone else out there. But he kind of came out there and said, "Hey guys, here's the rules. Here's what you're breaking. I don't really care today so much, but at another time, I would probably have to run you off the course for this. And, He told us, don't worry about it right now. You don't need to change what you're doing." It was actually, now that I think about it, it was really a good way for an older man to handle younger men, because he let us know what the standards were and that they would be enforced, but he didn't freak out about us because we didn't really know. I mean, we weren't out there trying to be destructive. We were like 17, 18 years old, and we were out playing golf on a Saturday because we wanted to try golf and see what it was like. And we were just being horses' asses, having a good time. He was kind of cool about it now that I think about it. Isaac says the golf course is just a gun range for gay men. Yeesh. Oh, I want to know what Lance Corporal Veteran retracted. That was probably a pretty good. Say it again, Lance Corporal Veteran. Say it again. No one here is going to judge you. That's not true. We'll judge you, but we're not going to ban you. Okay, Rob says, I remember fifth one in the First Amendment is the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, which is, again, the expression of dissent. Oh, I said expression. I shouldn't say that. And Tobacco Row had a cow pasture full of golf balls. The First Amendment is about the conveyance of ideas and the conveyance of dissent and the conveyance of complaint, and for the ability to use words to sway your fellow citizens over to your viewpoint. That's what it is about. It is about protecting the precious resource of ideas, and allowing ideas to be both evaluated and presented and then evaluated. And it doesn't mean your ideas can't be savaged. If you're gonna put an idea out there, then you've got to be willing to let that thing stand on its own 2 feet. And if it can't stand on its own 2 feet, that's the value of the marketplace of ideas. That's what makes the marketplace of ideas so vital to the function of a society. When someone comes up with a really dumb idea, it needs to get vetted by a bunch of, raging assholes. What are your thoughts on the red states updating the Declaration of Independence and laying out the line by line the crimes and treason of the government? I believe the states should govern themselves. I do too, Shaner. Unfortunately, we lost the Civil War, the first one. That's what they thought back then. And actually, I don't necessarily know that anything's technically been changed. I mean, I'm still a strong believer in federalism. I am a strong believer. I shouldn't say strong believer. I am a tepid believer that secession should probably be an option for every state. I think. I do. I'm pretty sure I think secession should be an option, because then the other states need to compete to keep states from making things so onerous on the other states that they don't just leave. So I do believe secession should be an option. I'm a strong go Braves. Oh, that's after that last road trip to the West Coast. Oh, that was ugly. That was ugly. I don't know why we can't play on the West Coast. It's like something about the time zone, the jet lag. We just forget how to play baseball when we get on the West Coast. Isaac still wants me to read Common Sense by Thomas Paine. I do need to read that, Isaac. But anywho. So here's my problem with updating the Declaration of Independence, Shaner, is what comes out of that. Remember, back in 1789, the Continental Congress decided that they needed to update the tax laws. And so they formed a special committee to update the tax laws. And the next thing we know, we've got us a whole entirely new system of government. You could make the argument that the Constitution was a coup, because no one had authorized them to go in and write a Constitution. They had sent them in to figure out a way to raise revenue, and they walked out with a Constitution and a Bill of Rights. So when you send in a group of even red states, you send in the 26 red states and tell them, come up with a update the Declaration of Independence. You have no idea what's walking back out, and you have completely given up control of the end result. One of the debates between the left and the right is that the right believes that the Declaration of Independence is the founding document of the nation, and I do. And no, the right believes the Declaration of Independence is the founding document of the nation, and the left says that the Constitution is the founding document of the nation. Now, either way, the right is right. But when you divorce the Constitution from the Declaration of Independence, it suddenly gets a little wishy-washy. It is only when the Constitution rests on the Declaration of Independence that our system of government, in my opinion, is firm. Isaac says he'll update the tax laws. Anyone who taxes shall go to jail for theft. We need some taxes. Tobacco Row is trying to picture a wall that goes all the way around Kansas. Actually, Anarchy Television likes the idea of updating. I think that's what he's saying. He likes the idea of updating the Declaration of Independence. Shaner says, we started a new country from scratch once before. All through history, all empires have failed. The road we are on now is to collapse. That is 100% correct, Shaner. We are definitely on our way to collapse. And I guess maybe what, does an updated Declaration of Independence, is it a Band-Aid? Like, do we need to go through the collapse? I would say we probably need to collapse and rebuild as a fractured, as a formerly, kind of like the Frankish Empire. The Frankish Empire used to extend from it was Spain, France, and Germany. And it fractured, and you got Spain, France, and Germany. Tom Me is here. Well, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's true. We do have a supreme law of the land, right? But if the Supreme Court can make an opinion that contradicts the supreme law of the land, is the Supreme Court the supreme law of the land? Absolutely. The Supreme Court, the Supreme Court has turned itself into a super legislature of 9, with lifelong appointments and no possibility of review. There's no accountability for the Supreme Court. Ungrateful Peasants here. He also says balkanization is the best option. Buddy Bear is here. All empires fail. We have fallen. We haven't hit bottom yet. Oh yeah, there was East and West Francia. Tommy says we're already balkanized. What comes next will not look anything like what we've had. That I agree with 100%. I am, and Shaner, it wasn't a bad idea. Sharon says she can't imagine these people updating anything, let alone the Constitution or Declaration. That is beyond frightening. Yeah, because who gets sent? Well, here, listen to this. I just found this out this weekend. So we used to have a lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia by the name of Jeff Duncan. Jeff is a very, very, very bad boy. I voted for Jeff, though, because he was the Republican lieutenant governor, right? Who else was I going to vote for? I sure as hell wasn't going to vote third party, and I can't vote Democrat. So I voted for this dumbass Jeff Duncan, who just came out. Now, he's not the lieutenant governor anymore. I actually don't know who our lieutenant governor is. Oh, whew. I am a bad citizen. I'll have to look that up. Jeff Duncan just came out and endorsed Joe Biden because he's a good person. I just want to vote for a good person. So the former Republican lieutenant governor of the great state of Georgia is voting for a damn Democrat. And not even a damn Democrat, a damn Yankee Democrat, and not even a damn Yankee Democrat, but a damn Yankee blue dog, far left, radical, dead vegetable Democrat. Like, he's 7 levels into hell here at this point. He has gone so far off the map that he's gone past the dragons, he's gone over the edge, and he's just falling into the abyss. You cannot tell me that you were ever truly a conservative in the state of Georgia and you're willing to vote for the vegetable in chief. But if we had a constitution, and this is Shaner was talking about updating the Declaration of Independence, and where I hear this idea in the past, where I've interacted with this idea in the past, is a convention of states. There's a provision in the Constitution to have a convention of states, and the convention of states can then they can do almost anything. There's really no limits on what the convention of states can do. And of course, it's a scary idea, because who's going to go to the convention of states? It's going to be the Jeff Duncan idiots. It's going to be the lion ass morons who are pretending to be conservative so they can get elected in red states, and they're going to get in the room and close the doors with all their liberal ass buddies, and once the gay orgy is over, they're going to take a few minutes to ruin the rest of our lives, and then they're going to go off to a cocktail party. The problem of one of the many problems, many problems, is that all of our elites are compromised. All of the people in positions of power are suspect. We can't trust any of them, but we can't get rid of any of them either, because they're what are they? They're burrowed in there like a tick on a dog's back. And who are we going to send? We're going to send the damn Jeff Duncans of the world. They're going to go to the Convention of the States, or they're going to go to whatever group rewrites the Declaration of Independence, and they're going to come back with something like this damn anti-Semitism bill that just got foisted on us, and they're going to look, it's the Inflation Reduction Act, and there's going to be a really nice heading on the top that says something about the Restoration of American Freedoms Act, and the very first sentence is going to be, "This is an act to restrict the freedoms of the American citizen." We can't trust these assholes with more power. Sending them to a convention and telling them fix this shit is giving them more power, but we're going to be giving power to the people who screwed it all up to begin with. I mean, these are the idiots who did this all to us, and they're going to be the ones in the closed, behind the closed doors in the secret room, allegedly fixing their mistakes. And all they're going to do is vote themselves more money and power. Yeah, Shaner. So the government will never limit their own power, but it's politicians that are going to end up going to a convention of states or to, whatever body would rewrite the Declaration of Independence, and we'd be worse off than we are now. The greatest defense of liberties that happens anymore was, first off, Donald Trump. To say what you want for whatever his failures were, the man put a hiring freeze on federal employees. Listen to me. This never gets talked about. The man put a hiring freeze on federal employees for a brief period of time, for the first time in the history of this nation, in our entire history, for the first time, the size of the government was not expanding. That is a tiny, 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 tiny little moral victory. But it is the first victory against the deep state of my life. I've heard people say it. He said he was going to drain the swamp, and he didn't drain the swamp. Well, first off, that is a very big swamp. And he did take some significant whacks at it. Now, let me be honest, cards on the table here. I tend towards hero worship. Very, very limited hero worship. But I tend to pick out, a couple of men I admire, and then I kind of lionize those men in my mind. I did it with George W. Bush when I saw him standing on that bus with that bullhorn. I sort of lionized him, and I had some hero worship for that man for a few years, and he couldn't do any wrong. And it wasn't until I saw Obama abusing all those things that George W. Bush had put in place that I realized, George W. Bush might have been a good man, but he was not a smart man. Or he was not a good man and he was a very smart man. One of the two. All right, I'm missing some stuff. Oh, look at that. Trump never appointed an ATF director. I'd forgotten about that, Isaac. So, yeah, he put a hiring freeze on the federal bureaucracy and never appointed an ATF director. Was I pissed about the bump stock ban? Of course. 100% was I unhappy about the bump stock ban. That's my one disappointment. Like, okay, what did he do wrong? What did he actually do wrong? Not necessarily what did he not achieve. Because I have a hard time blaming a man for what he didn't achieve. But I will blame him for what he did do. And, you know, I look at Trump, what he did do was the bump stock ban. Okay. Set that against not appointing an ATF director. You know, for 4 years, that satanic, horrific, tyrannical, oligarchical, monarchical piece of shit agency didn't have leadership. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Thank you, Rob. Okay, so let's see what I've missed here. You all heard, Kinetic says, y'all heard that everything east of the Mississippi will be understood by 10/24/24, right? What a joke. Underwater. Oh, we'll all be underwater by 10/24/24. Well, that's going to be a lot of water. We're at what? We're right at 1,000 feet above sea level. Not exactly. We're like 980 or 990 or something. I don't remember. But we're 1,000 foot above sea level, a couple 100 miles inland. That is a lot of damn water. I'm not saying it's completely impossible because, you know, obviously I believe in Noah's Ark. So clearly something it's been underwater at some point, but, you know, not often. That is not what you'd call a once in a millennium flood. Okay, truth speakers will be legends in future. Woo! We had a Pinewood Derby race tonight. That's one of the reasons why this live stream was late. And three of my sons were racing in a Pinewood Derby race. And you know, any dad who's being honest will tell you when this stuff comes up. There's always a little bit of a, do I have to? And you know that I did that too. Because all I'm thinking was, oh God, a project I've got to do, and if I don't do it right, I'll have failed my sons, and I'll be a bad dad, and you know, and there was three of them. You know, it's not nothing to make 3 Pinewood Derby cars. But we did it last weekend. We made the cars, and the 3 boys did the vast majority of the work. I did almost nothing. I sat there and smoked a cigar while they did most of it. You know, obviously the youngest one needed a little bit more help than the oldest one. But you know, I probably spent actually 45 minutes working on these 3 cars, and they did all the rest of it. We went and bought them some cheap spray paint, and they did the most of the painting, and I did some touch ups, and it was really kind of nice and fun. And the cars looked, I was pleased with the cars going in. I felt like, okay, we're going to put, but we had the race tonight, and the first 3 heats, we won all 3 races. And I was starting to get excited, like, oh, we're going to have a good night. Woohoo! Let's go racing, boys. That's what made me think about this. I went, woohoo! And I've been doing that all night tonight because they did a lot of races, and they won the majority of their races. And so I was doing a lot of woohoo all night long. And actually one of them placed 3rd. He podiumed. He got on the podium. He got 3rd. So we had a good night. Anywho, Tobacco Rose says graphite for the win. I didn't have any graphite. I used WD-40. I don't know if it worked or not, but kinetic left and right, red and blue are 2 wings to the same purple vulture. Anyone watch the show Clarkson's Farm? Is that Jeremy Clarkson, the guy who did the British car show? I can't remember the name of the show now. If that's Jeremy, yeah, because Clarkson started a farm during COVID, and he's been absolutely livid about all of the regulations and stuff he has to comply with, and he's damn near been red pilled, if I remember correctly. Is that what you're talking about, Lance Corporal Veteran? Ungrateful peasant doesn't like Trump, and I mean, obviously Trump isn't perfect. He did pretty good. Is any gambling going on at the Derby? I don't know what that's. Landon Wold, shalom. How you doing, sir? Oh, you can grind up pencil lead to get graphite. Oh, that's interesting. Congratulations, boys. Well, thank you, Sharon. What are we celebrating? He is a lifelong New York Democrat, just playing everyone. Ungrateful peasant. So Ungrateful Peasant's talking about Trump saying that he's a lifelong New York Democrat, just playing everyone. I'm okay with that. If he's doing that, I don't care. I'm okay. Because he's done the things. No one's done what he did. All right. If he's the fake phony, he was more effective than W. Even though W was decent at terrorism, fighting terrorism, the first Bush did nothing conservative in the least. The first Bush did he did something with he signed some big gun control that affected class 3 machine guns. I don't remember all what it was. Look, I'm very nostalgic about Reagan, but Reagan didn't, Reagan signed that massive amnesty. Reagan didn't stop the rot. Nixon was one of the most liberal presidents we've ever had. Now, I like Nixon personally. I think Nixon's a fascinating case study because he was a rabid anti-communist, and he was the most communist president we've ever had. We don't have time to get into all this, but Nixon did OSHA. He instituted OSHA. He instituted, I think, HUD, the National Education Administration. What else did he do? Oh, I think Nixon instituted the EPA. Nixon instituted wage controls and price controls. Nixon was a damn communist in practice. Gerald Ford was just a non-entity. I shouldn't say that. Gerald Ford did a very, very important service for his country in the wake of Watergate. So I shouldn't say he was a non-entity, but his administration had no impact outside of that. And of course, everyone forgets this, or many people don't know this. We had won the Vietnam War, literally won it, like in a peace treaty, won the Vietnam War. And in the aftermath of Watergate and during the Gerald Ford presidency, North Vietnam realized that America was too demoralized and distracted to enforce the peace treaty, and they re-invaded South Vietnam, and that's when South Vietnam fell. People don't realize this, that we had actually won the war with a peace treaty. Look it up. It's the Treaty of Paris. There's been a lot of treaties of Paris, though, by the way, so you got to get the right one. But we won Vietnam. We got an honorable peace. It wasn't a perfect peace, but it was a good peace, and it was sticking. I think it stuck for 2 years. Or close. Anyway, it was sticking, and then Watergate happened, and that's when there was basically a second Vietnam War, sort of. It wasn't even hardly a war, and America just said, you know what, we're done. We can't. We got our own shit going on, and that was Gerald Ford. Yeah. So Reagan didn't really do anything to reverse the rot. Nixon accelerated it more than anyone other than probably Obama. And the last, the Republican president before that was Eisenhower, who I think Eisenhower was one of the most important men of the 20th century. He was probably the indispensable man of the 20th century. Him or Churchill won, but I'm thinking it was Eisenhower. And I think most of his presidency was about realizing what had been unleashed. He didn't actually try to, a lot of the problems that got started in the 20s and 30s and 40s got established in the early 50s. So as much as I admire Eisenhower, and as much as I think he's a really underrated historical figure, he wasn't a conservative president. And prior to that, we had Truman, who was just an extension of the Franklin Roosevelt presidency, which lasted 12 years. And prior to Roosevelt, you had Coolidge, who was actually, he was not effective, but he was probably the second most conservative president, other than Trump, since then. Calvin Coolidge was a principled conservative who went down with the ship because of his ideals, because of his principles, and he was right, by the way. Everything he said was right, but it's just because everyone was scared, and Roosevelt came in and said, "Oh yeah, I'll solve it all. Don't worry. Everyone's gonna have. Don't worry about it. Chicken in every pot." Everyone's like, "Oh, I like chicken," and instantly Roosevelt made everything worse. So Coolidge was a good conservative, small government, leader. But the Great Depression hamstrung him. Teddy Roosevelt, who I love, he's an absolute wild man. He's a blast. If you don't like Teddy Roosevelt, then you do not have a sense of humor and you do not have testicles, because he was a fun man. There were some Trumpian things about him in the way he acted and the way he spoke and sort of the things he did. But he was not a conservative. He was anything but a conservative. He was definitely America first, but a lot of people were America first back then. I'm sorry, but before Teddy was, after Teddy, but we're working our way backwards. There was Wilson, and Wilson was evil. We're only really talking about the Republicans anyway. We've skipped all the Democrats. So Roosevelt wasn't conservative. Was a Grover Cleveland Republican? Anyway, at this point, we're out of the modern era. We've got ourselves back to prior to women voting, and we've got ourselves back to like 1912. So the Militia Act of 1916 hasn't passed, and the Women's Suffrage Amendment hasn't passed, and probably the Federal Reserve isn't even. So we're out of the modern era of government. In that 100 and whatever it is, 112 year span, let's just say, we have not had anyone who's been more effective than Trump. And if he was faking it, okay, that's great. I don't get to do marriage counseling very often because no one trusts me to do marriage counseling. I have a divorce. I have a baby mama. And everyone thinks my wife's a saint who her marriage is going to be successful anyway, no matter how crazy her husband is. But the few times I've gotten to, that's a joke. The few times I've gotten to do marriage counseling, and I've gotten to talk to women about this stuff, and anyway, it's always sex. It's like, he just wants sex, and I don't, and I tell him, so fake it. Take 15 minutes out of your week and fake it. He'll be ecstatic. You want me to fake it? Fake it. Lady, we're not that smart, and it wouldn't take you that much time, and it wouldn't take you that much effort. And if it makes your marriage better and it makes your husband happy, why not just fake it? There's a reason why the modern relationship industrial complex freaks out about that, because it's probably an effect. If Trump's faking it and it works and it makes things better, I don't care. I care about results. Did he get all the results? He got more results than any president in the modern era. So I don't care if he's a New York Democrat who's faking it. He got Roe versus Wade overturned. He froze hiring for the federal government, and he never appointed an ATF director. Those three things by themselves are the most significant conservative moves of the modern era. Now, that is sad. That is sad that the bar is set that low. But if the man who's done it better than anyone else in 112 years isn't good enough to be given another shot. There's no one who's good enough, you know, and there has to, we have to try, you know, this, we can't just give up the struggle. We can't stop trying because no one's lived up to the standard. You know, I don't even have to explain why that's a terrible idea. We have to keep trying. Trump's done it better than anyone else in 112 years. There are no other options. I think Ron DeSantis was a fantastic governor. I loved his response to COVID. Ron DeSantis is not ready. Ron DeSantis should have gone back to Florida, run for governor, finished up his governor term, and had already he should have gone to Donald Trump and said, look, I'm going to endorse you. You're going to promise me a powerful cabinet position when I finish being governor halfway through your term. And that way I will, and then at the end of your second term, I'll be positioned to make a strong run for the presidency. And his family, he's got a very young family. His family would have been a little bit older. His wife just had a terrible cancer scare. So his wife would have made so much more sense. And had he done that, everything would have been so much better had he just done that. But he didn't. But Ron DeSantis wasn't the guy. Even if he was the guy, it wasn't his turn. All right. Trump had unfinished business. Trump had earned the right at another shot. Now, the one caveat is that, yes, Trump is 78 years old, and that is old. But he seems to be handling it really, really well. Tom me likes Vivek. Isaac does not like DeSantis. Kinetic does not like the whole fake it thing. I you know, I don't know what why. You know, there is no such thing as authenticity. Nothing is 100% authentic, and if sometimes it needs to be less authentic than other times in order to accomplish a worthy goal, then that's okay. What matters is results. What am I missing? We needed strong, popular, and capable governors, Congress critters, and senators. That is true. Rob bounced. I guess he's gone by now. I wish I could tell him good night. Oh, his daughter just got home. The way Trump is selling Bibles makes me want to puke as well. What's wrong with selling Bibles, though? I mean, really, why is this a big deal? If people want to buy, and it's a $60 Bible. By the way, I have a $100 Bible, and it doesn't have Trump's name anywhere on it. So if he's selling a $60 Bible, he's actually selling a fairly affordable Bible. I don't understand what's wrong with Trump selling Bibles. Trump has been a businessman his entire life. He's been a salesman his entire life. I don't know why he couldn't sell Bibles. Okay. Yeah, ungrateful peasant. I agree 100%. DeSantis should have waited. Lance Corporal Veteran says, I don't care. I only want Trump to bring us vengeance. Okay, the Lord looks over those that golf. Objective truth is authentic. We'd have to discuss that, Kinetic. There's only a few things I would be willing to admit were objective truth. And all of those things would be in their own category. Abbott never sued WEF, neither did Tulsi or any others. I think that's Tommy. I think he's talking about DeSantis. Yeah, I think DeSantis was a fantastic governor, and I think he would have made a really good president. Unfortunately, I think he listened to some very, very, very bad advice from never Trumpers. Sharon says, smoke and mirrors, way more to that story than can be told here. I liked them too a lot until I looked. Fair enough. Isaac says, a political leader encouraging people to have Bibles is awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you're a believer in the Bible, you know, what's wrong with more Bibles? Yeah, Sharon, Tulsi. Now, I like Tulsi. I think Tulsi is a lot of fun. I think she's honest, and I think she's fairly courageous. Now, when I say all that, I have not had any interaction with her since she's been kicked out of the Democrat Party. So when she was still an active Democrat, I thought that she was honest and courageous. So I do not know if now that she's been ostracized, if she has, you know, started adopting some faux conservatism, because that's where an audience is. However, I like Tulsi, but Tulsi's not a conservative. Tulsi is in that same category. There's this woman, she's an academic, she's a feminist, her name's Camille Paglia. She's brilliant. She's just brilliant, and she's hysterically funny in a very academic sort of way. Very, very often what she says, of course, goes right over my head, and I'm just trying to sort of pick up what it, but very frequently, anytime I read her, you know, she's funny, she's brilliant, but she's completely wrong. I mean, she's completely wrong. But she's always at odds with her own side, and she's always speaking truth to her own side, the feminist. Well, anyway, won't get on. But Tulsi's in that same category with Camille Paglia for me. A very valuable voice, but she is not one of our voices. Anyway. Isaac says Tulsi is a beautiful leftist loon. Oh, Tom says Vivek sued the WEF. Vivek is solid. Okay. I don't know why Vivek sued the WEF. I'm not familiar with any of that. Isaac does not like Tulsi. Ungrateful Peasant said she just happened to always be absent for controversial bills. They have been planning on switching her for years. Isaac also does not like Ron DeSantis at all. And Sharon does not trust Tulsi. Really, the right doesn't have many really good candidates these days. 100%. 100% true. Hoping the modern MAGA types can influence and encourage the younger generations to get active and vocal. So I am mildly encouraged about this. You know, we all got real excited about the Tea Party too, and maybe we all felt like that fizzled, just like the moral majority we felt like fizzled, and the well, anyway, all of these. But I really don't feel. I'm starting to think that these things aren't fizzling. They're fomenting. These movements aren't going away. They're facing opposition, and their opposition is adapting. But these movements seem to be maintaining their size and intensity level over decades. And of course, the pro-life movement is the best example of that. But I think the Tea Party morphed into MAGA. You know, I don't think the Tea Party went away. The Tea Party wasn't defeated. The Tea Party became MAGA. And the Tea Party came from the moral majority. There's a couple other organizations, you know. So I am cautiously optimistic at this point that something will survive. I love there's this old sci-fi show. It's not really that old, but Stargate SG-1 had Richard Dean Anderson, the guy from MacGyver. And if you like sci-fi shows at all, or if you like sci-fi at all, you probably know about Stargate SG-1. It was a TV spin-off of the original Stargate movie that starred Kurt Russell And it was a really fun little show, and it lasted 10 seasons. It lasted forever. And it didn't take itself too seriously, but it still set out to be a good, show in sort of the vein of a Star Trek or something. I think it's better than Star Trek. But I really liked Stargate SG-1. And one of the conceits in Stargate SG-1 was that the bad guys were these parasites that took over human bodies and used them for hosts and turned them into superhuman, supervillains. And they'd always say, nothing of the host remains. Nothing of the host remains. Every time they took over a host, the parasites, the Goa'uld, they were called, would claim that the host died and the host was gone, and all that was left was the body, animated by the parasite. And of course, you find out later towards the end, so that's not true. That the host does survive. That's true of these movements too. The host survives. The host survives. The Tea Party didn't die, and MAGA wasn't born out of nothing. And when Trump, sorry about that. That was an alert. My battery's down to 20%. So this live stream is probably going to end in a little while, whether we want it to or not. And when Donald Trump exits the political stage, MAGA isn't going to die. The host will remain, and it will morph into something else. Yeah, Sharon, there was Stargate Atlantis. Oh, some of y'all know this. Isaac says the first few seasons of SG-1 were okay. It gets really good, like most shows, Isaac, after the second season, it really hit its stride. So starting around season 3, it really hits a high point around season 5. One of the characters left the show for a while. And he was a good actor. There's nothing wrong with him. But the writers just had a weird relationship with this character. And with that character gone, and they brought in a replacement character who I liked a lot better. And so season 5 really kind of hit a high note. It was Dr. Jackson. Daniel Jackson left the show. That was the character's name. I don't remember the actor's name. And they replaced him with some alien. And I thought it worked really, really well. But then they brought back Daniel Jackson after a year. But it was still good. It was still good all the way through. But then Sharon's right. Then Stargate Atlantis came along, and Stargate Atlantis was not as good as SG-1, but it was still enjoyable if you liked SG-1. It was still, it was the same universe. It was familiar. It was comfortable. It was okay. It ran about 5 seasons, and it was pretty much just more of the same. And they had a few really good characters. What was Rodney? There's this one character on there named Rodney. I can't remember his last name, but he was hysterical. He made the whole show. And then Tom brings up Stargate Universe. Stargate Universe was one of the best TV shows I have ever seen. It was fantastic. And it only lasted like a season and a half, maybe a season, and it got canceled right in the middle. And it was just, it was great. Stargate Universe. Yeah, it was still the same universe. It was even some of the same characters would make cameos, but it was just a completely different feel. It really felt like Lost. I think it came out after Lost even, so it was probably heavily, heavily influenced by Lost. But it was really, 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 really good. And of course, because it was really, really good, it had trouble finding an audience, and it didn't last. Oh yeah, Isaac. So when they first started the show, Stargate SG-1, it was on Showtime or something, and they were trying to put a little bit of sex in there to spice it up. and they realized it didn't work, and so they cut it out, and it really didn't. And like I said earlier, you know, I'm a man who enjoys the feminine figure, and there's really not much you can't insert it into that I won't find improves. But it wasn't working. You know, it just wasn't working for the show. Uh, and when they so they moved from Showtime over to Sci-Fi Channel, and when they did, they had to get rid of the nudity, and there was never much. There was never much. They could kind of tell early on that it just wasn't working, and they really kind of dialed it way back almost immediately. But that's why the show really gets better after season 2, because that's when they left Showtime. I think it was Showtime. So, but there's not much nudity, and most of it is edited out in now, because usually you're seeing it on, you know, Sci-Fi Channel or in broadcast television, and it's actually really hard to find the early unedited scenes. Okay. So, Tom, I watched the remake of Battlestar Galactica. I had never seen the original. I thought the remake was superb. And I know that is, I don't know if that's heresy for you or not. I know that is usually not true. The remakes almost always suck. I thought the remake of Battlestar Galactica was fantastic. And I wish now I had watched the original first. I'm not sure that I will watch the original. Yeah, Rodney was hysterical on Stargate Atlantis. But anyway, and then I tried to watch Gattaca, but I just couldn't get into it. Yeah, the Battlestar Galactica from the 2000s. That's the one I watched, and I thought it was very, very good. I gotta disagree. I think they put way too much nudity and gratuitous sex scenes and things now. So, Tom, what they do is they put, yes, but they don't put. This is probably a deeper conversation than we have time for. You know, I think of sex as the healthy relationship between a man and a woman. And anything that isn't the healthy relationship between a man and a woman isn't sex. And so much of what gets portrayed today is you're just horrific perversion. You know, it's not sex. It's perversion, and hideous perversion that's sort of gloried in. You know. And that's terrible. But you know, if you look back at, you know, say an old Marilyn Monroe movie where so much of let's just say gentlemen prefer blondes for whatever reason, mostly because I really like that movie. It's a lot of fun, and the songs are catchy. And Jane Russell. Oh. Jane Russell. Jane Russell, listen to me. My mind went blank. Who was the brunette in the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes? Howard Hughes' ex-girlfriend. Gorgeous woman. Can't think of her name off the top of my head. That movie was all about, you know, these two beautiful women on the screen being sort of paraded around and put in, you know, compromising situations. But the underlying assumptions of the whole thing was that these actually were good girls who were looking to get married, and sure, there was a little bit of steaminess that you know, that got misinterpreted into this. You know, it's like, to the pure, all things are pure. Why are you reading into this? and so it reinforced a positive morality, even though it was quite focused on implying that Marilyn Monroe and what's her face? Why can I not think of this woman's name? I'm waiting to see if someone put it in the chat for me yet, but they haven't. I didn't see The Expanse. Anywho, so you seen the Girl from Pearl Harbor movie lately? Ouch. I have not, and I never watched Pearl Harbor because I knew it would just make me angry. Because they're going to have to put a woman in it somehow, and not that I have anything against women. I love women, but they just weren't integral at Pearl Harbor. You know, I mean, there's just some movies that you just don't have to shoehorn in a woman to the story. Was it Jane Russell, Sharon? Well, who am I? Oh, I'm thinking of Jane. Pretty brunette woman from the 70s. She was a Bond girl. Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Jane Seymour. Yeah. Okay, so it was Jane Russell and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Jane Mansfield was James Mansfield was an unhappy young woman, much like Marilyn Monroe, but less unhappy than Marilyn Monroe, but still unhappy. All those blonde bombshells. I don't know what it is about being the blonde bombshell, but they're just unhappy. You know, Mae West had a mildly successful life in that she lived a very long time and seemed to not have regretted it all the way through. But yeah, she had like 8 marriages, and I don't think she ever had kids. The shucks. I guess the next one would have been Marlene Dietrich, who she also lived a long life, but she never had children, and she died alone in an apartment surrounded by parrots. Her nephew would come visit her once or twice a year. Marilyn Monroe, we all know Marilyn Monroe's story. Jane Mansfield died in a car wreck because she was driving under the influence of some powerful opiates. We're all watching Britney Spears and her slow motion train wreck. You see what happened to Madonna. Anyone who adopts that blonde bombshell persona, it just doesn't end well for them, and I don't know why. Why would that be more? Why does that seem to set all these women on this exact same trajectory? I don't know, but it makes me a little uneasy with the blonde bombshells, and Jane Mansfield sort of represents that for me the most. Yeah, it was Jane Russell and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, Tom, not many people even know James Mansfield anymore. But Isaac, I still haven't looked up Sydney Sweeney. But I did hear someone talking about her on a podcast recently, and they were saying some of the same things you were saying. Yes. But anywho. So, how we got off on all that was that so much. Yes, I think it was Tom Me had said that. Tom Me, I just got that. Takes me so far long to catch on these things sometimes. Tommy, clever. I was saying that there's too much sex, and I think there's not enough sex. Because what's portrayed isn't sex. It's just ugly perversion, designed to tear down sex. sex is good, but sex is a extremely narrowly defined. Oh, and by the way, explicit sex should not be displayed on the screen. But I am of the opinion that it's male nudity that should be banned, and female nudity needs to be heavily circumscribed. But it's actually male nudity that is where the line should be drawn. And there's some complex theological reasons, or maybe not that complex. They're complex for me because I'm a dummy. But there's some pretty complex reasons why I believe that, and they kind of get deep into my. Oh, Sharon says why. Okay, so let me see if I can like just give a quick blurb about this. All throughout Scripture, God defines Himself as a husband. Frequently throughout Scripture, as a husband. And sex, the sex act between a man and a woman, is related, or is described as a metaphor for the relationship between God and Israel, or Christ and the church, or God and humankind. The relationship that exists between us and our Creator is mirrored most closely in the physical world, in the sexual union between a man and a woman. That makes sex sacred. That makes sex holy. And that makes the representation of the male half of sex to be a representation of God Himself. Not saying that we're gods, not saying that we live up to that standard, not saying that we should be worshipped. I'm just saying that there's a metaphor in place, that sex is a metaphor, and the male half of that metaphor represents God Himself. So right off the bat, we got to be real careful about how we handle male sexuality, because it's so holy, it represents something so important. And it's when you insert the male, pardon the pun, didn't mean to do that. It's the male that defines whether or not an act is sex. You could put 1,000 naked women in a room, and it's just a shower, just a dormitory. You put a naked man in that room, and it's an orgy. It's the male that dictates whether or not. Sorry, that was the alert telling me we're down to 10%. So this is going to go quick. It's the male that determines whether or not a situation or an act is sex or sexual. And so if we keep the male out of it, that doesn't necessarily, just because there's no man in it doesn't mean that it's okay. But if you have male nudity in a man and a woman involved in a sex act, you're now depicting something holy, something extremely holy, and that woman is actually now off limits to the desires of any other man. It gets real complex, but at its basic level, it's because of this metaphor, and I capitalize that. It's the metaphor of what sex represents, and the man's role in that metaphor, and what the man represents, which is God Himself. That it's male nudity for me. It's the male participation in the depiction that elevates it or completely debases it. And so just depictions of female nudity by themselves are not necessarily, in my ethic, problematic. They can be. Anything can be. But you gonna go pick up the girl? but where we draw the hard line, where we can definitely say, "Whoa, we've crossed into new territory," is when you're inserting a nude man into the situation. Okay. Okay, so what am I missing here? Is the correct word unity? Yeah, that's the other thing, Sharon, is like male nudity is not appealing. I mean, women, even heterosexual women, don't like nude men. Okay, what do we got here? Hypersexualized, readily available drugs and booze to numb the emotional pain from being against God's path. Pretty satanic when you get down to it. I'm a bad influence at times, my man. I've been in deep black-pilled mood lately. So this has been a nice change for me. Thank you all. Oh, I'm glad we could be helpful, Tom. I'm not sure what black-pilled is. Someone explain that for me. Okay. I don't know what Isaac was talking about, but some woman works on trucks, is very good looking, and basically told people to F off for bashing her for attending a MAGA theme party. She's an old school bombshell superstar. Well, I don't know who she is, but it sounds like you should marry her, Isaac. Oh, Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, you want to marry her. Okay. All right, sex is a gift from God for husband and wife. Sharon Jones agrees. I hope Sharon's agreeing with me. Tom says, I'm blessed to have raised my girls good enough that I got yelled at for a sex scene in the Fallout TV show. I believe it goes back to the creation of the woman. That's Sharon. Lance Corporal Veteran says, who saw the movie Argyle? I wish I had never watched that bait and switched trash of a movie. Well, thank you for the warning, Lance Corporal Veteran. I will not watch it. Ungrateful Peasant says, thanks for the stream. I've got to run and try to get some more shots of the aura. Oh, have fun, Ungrateful Peasant. I hope you get to see it. Okay, Lance Corporal Veteran wants us to look up the Winston Marshall Oxford debate. I will try to remember to do that. Although I'm also supposed to look up Sydney Sweeney, and I keep forgetting to do that too. I still find it incredibly unnecessary that Da Vinci couldn't have bothered putting a loincloth on the statue of King David. I would have probably made it my wallpaper if he was covered. I agree. Why was it necessary for us to see the schlong of King David? Oh, black pill, no positive sides. And Sharon said she does agree with me. All right, you know what? This phone is going to die quick. It said it had 10%, but it's a lying son bitch. It's an old iPhone 8. It was refurbished when I got it. And when it says it has 10%, it usually means it's got, I've got minutes. So rather than let this thing die on me, I'm going to tell y'all good evening. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. It was a good discussion. I know I don't even have to have topics because I know you guys are going to come up with the most interesting things to talk about. Isaac, we appreciate you, Sharon. It was wonderful to have you with us this evening. We don't always get as much as Sharon as we wish, and of course, Les is always a pleasure. All of the regulars, Lance Corporal Veteran. Who else did we see? We saw Ungrateful Peasant. Anarchy Television was here for a while. I'm sure he's gone now. Buddy Bear Reflections popped in for us. Landon Wald's here. Hey, Landon, you just dropping in at the tail end. No, Tommy, we appreciate the topics. That was great. I believe this might have been the first time I noticed Tommy in the chat. That might be a new one. Oh, the tradesman was here. Who else did we see? Oh, Rob Painless was here earlier in the stream. Luke B is here, or was at some point. Tobacco Row has been with us for a very long time. It's always fun to see him. I shouldn't say he's been with us, but he's been interacting with the channel for a very long time. Anywho, good stream, everyone. Appreciate you. Hope you all get to see the Northern Lights. I am boycotting them because I am so angry about Isaac, you were only supposed to be here 30 minutes and you stayed the whole time. You're a good friend. Tommy lurks a lot. We like lurkers. I'm boycotting the Northern Lights because, I got a solar flare and the lights didn't even flicker, and I am just pissed. I'm just throwing a temper tantrum. Okay, Isaac says, I want to recommend a fun stream called Cobra Cast. It's a fun MAGA and geek stream. Awesome. Isaac, next week's stream, feel free to post that link. I trust your judgment. If you say they're good, they're good. So post the link in the stream next week. And we appreciate you, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.